Hi, I'm Grant, and I'm going to give you a few tips on how to shoot a musical performance and some ideas about how you can use additional footage to maybe make it a bit more interesting to watch. Now, you may have one of these, or you may have one of these. Either one's going to work fine. The most important part is always filming landscape, never filming portrait. And the next most important thing is to keep it stable. And if you don't have a tripod or a stand, you could easily just prop it up against something like this. Or better still, give it to a friend to film. Now, framing your shot is probably the next most important thing. Now, this is a bit different because I'm talking to you, but when you're taking shots of other things, try to think about the rule of thirds. Place your subject or the thing that you want to focus on at the intersections of the grid. No matter what the shot size is, it just makes for a more pleasing composition. Now, the next thing you want to take a look at is your video settings. 1080p at 25 frames per second is completely fine, and it helps with the overall consistency of the project if everybody's settings are the same. Now, if you're recording your sound on a separate device while filming, make sure you mark the beginning of each clip with a clap to the camera. That's take one. That way the editor can sync the audio and visuals easily. And if you're fortunate enough to be filming with two devices, make sure you clap to each source. And if you could use two angles, make sure they contrast. One closer than the other is completely fine. That way the editor has something to cut to. Then you're good to go. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. This house just ain't no home anytime she goes away. Hang on a minute. What was that? That was an insert shot or a cutaway. It could cover up an edit or add a bit of extra detail to the main sequence. If you're filming a performance, it could be useful to have a few shots like these just to vary things up a bit. But if you're covering from a couple of different angles anyway, you probably won't need that much. Whatever you shoot though, be sure to hold the shot for a few seconds at the beginning and at the end of the clip. The editor will thank you. Whereas this is B-roll. Now, B-roll is shot in addition to the performance footage. It's used to enhance or illustrate things in a more non-representational way. It's footage that isn't part of the main story or performance, but adds an element of visual interest. It relates to things in a more abstract way. Therefore, your imagery can be a bit more abstract. If your composition doesn't have much of a performance element, then it's probably going to need to be made entirely out of B-roll. So think about the subject matter and areas of interest, and that'll determine the kind of B-roll content that you're going to want to include. You can even show a bit of your own working process. Now, most DSLR and smartphone cameras will take time-lapse clips, so try walking around with it for a while to get that hyperlapse look. Of course, B-roll doesn't necessarily have to be footage that you shoot yourself. There are many sources of copyright-free images and footage online, which may be relevant to your project. Again, the key is using visuals to enhance the composition. So, to sum up, always shoot landscape, make sure your camera's stable, compose your shots carefully, make sure your settings are correct, sync up your audio if you're recording on a separate device, and use B-roll in a creative way. And most importantly of all, enjoy the process. Thanks.